Trial and killing of George Floyd spurs Minneapolis to prepare for unrest. City prepares for protests and possible violence ahead of the trial of a former Minneapolis police officer charged in the killing of George Floyd. By Joe Barrett and Dina Winter, photographs by Jen Ackerman for the Wall Street Journal. March 4, 2021, 12:02 p.m. Eastern Time. Minneapolis. As the trial of a former police officer charged in the killing of George Floyd nears, Minneapolis is launching a massive security effort to try to prevent a repeat of the rioting and looting that took hold of the city last summer. Activist groups like Black Lives Matter have said they plan to protest peacefully during the trial but can't rule out the possibility of civil unrest breaking out in the event of an acquittal. Minnesota Public Safety Director John Harrington said in a briefing Monday that he is coordinating with federal officials to monitor the possibility of extremist groups trying to disrupt the trial, but that there is no known imminent threat. Barricades and barbed wire are rising in the area around the Hennepin County Courthouse, where jury selection in the trial of former officer Derek Chauvin is set to begin Monday. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey said the city has been working for months with state and Minnesota National Guard officials on a plan to deploy a peak total of 2,000 Guard members and 1,100 police officers, including many from other jurisdictions, when the jury starts deliberating in mid to late April. City leaders were forced to call for help from the National Guard under duress during last summer's mass protests, which devolved into nights of rioting and looting in commercial corridors across the city and the surrender and destruction of a Minneapolis police station. This time, officials say they have had months to prepare and are vowing to maintain order while allowing peaceful protests as the city faces what leaders are calling a historic challenge. This will be the culmination of a year-long barrage of trauma to our city, especially our Black and brown residents, Mr. Frey said in an interview. Safety has to be our top priority. The city's plans include community outreach and improved communication, but some city council members say the reliance on such a heavy police and National Guard presence could add to tensions. I don't think that we can police our way out of police violence, Council President Lisa Bender said in a public hearing Monday. In widely circulated video footage, Mr. Floyd can be seen face down on the ground and losing consciousness as Mr. Chauvin placed a knee on his neck for around 8 minutes as 3 other former officers assisted. The county medical examiner ruled the death a homicide and listed the cause as cardiopulmonary arrest complicating law enforcement subdual, restraint, and neck compression. The county autopsy also indicated Mr. Floyd suffered from heart disease and had drugs in his system. The defense has argued that the drugs and heart disease caused Mr. Floyd's death, noting the medical examiner found no evidence of injury to his neck and back. Mr. Chauvin is facing charges of second-degree murder, unintentional, while committing a felony, and second-degree manslaughter. The other 3 former officers have been charged with abetting second-degree murder and manslaughter and are expected to face trial in August. Lawyers for all 4 have made filings indicating they aren't guilty. As workers boarded up windows and erected security barriers around government buildings in downtown Minneapolis last week, a coalition of 17 activist groups vowed a large-scale protest on Monday and a sustained presence throughout the trial. Their justice, their safety is putting up barricades and hindering our First Amendment right for public assembly and protest, said Angela Rose Myers, president of the Minneapolis branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. We are not here to hinder justice, we are here to deliver justice. Trarin Cruz, founder and lead organizer of Black Lives Matter Minnesota, said he hopes for a peaceful outcome, but didn't rule out the possibility of unrest returning in Minneapolis and possibly elsewhere if Mr. Chauvin is acquitted. The whole country is watching right now, Mr. Cruz said in an interview. And I believe the majority of the country wants to see justice for George Floyd. Mr. Floyd's killing sparked an outpouring of protests around the world and civil unrest in major U.S. cities. Some 1,500 businesses in Minneapolis were affected, sustaining around $1 billion in damage, said Jonathan Weinhagen, president and chief executive of the Minneapolis Regional Chamber of Commerce. The city has encouraged small business owners who are concerned about looting to consider boarding up windows, adding other security measures, and storing important documents off-site or in the cloud. Of course, we're nervous, said Tawfik Waiswaz, manager of AM Gift Shop, which sells groceries and tobacco along with gift items about a mile from the courthouse. He said the store was damaged several times during the riots last summer. He hired round-the-clock security for a time and installed metal bars and gates. We spent tens of thousands of dollars and still we feel insecure, he said. We don't want what happened in the past to happen again. Mr. Weinhagen of the Chamber of Commerce said there is concern about what will happen if the jury fails to convict Mr. Chauvin, but he praised the extensive security planning. We really want to make sure that the progress we've made in the last 10 months toward rebuilding and transforming, we don't take a step back from that and see further devastation, he said. Officials said the extensive planning includes highly visible patrols of commercial corridors by police backed up by National Guard troops. Multiple mobile field teams will be dispatched to trouble spots around the city. Any deployment of gas or other non-lethal methods of crowd dispersal must be approved directly by the chief under a court order, Police Chief Madaria Arredondo said. Mr. Frey said the luxury of time will make a huge difference compared with the summer. We were encountering decisions where all the answers were bad, he said. Now, after 8 months to prepare, you can plan for a number of different circumstances that may or may not arise. And we can have personnel and assistance immediately on hand.
Now, remember, I told you to always watch the actions and not the words. Now, the fact that they are getting 12 feet fence, barbed wire, they are getting 2,000 National Guards, 1,000 police. It's amazing how they can organize when Black folks are involved. They can organize well. But when that thing went down, that insurrection up at the U.S. Capitol, they couldn't get the National Guard. They couldn't get backup for the police. They couldn't do anything. They were just helpless in the whole situation. They couldn't do nothing. And you notice the fence went up after the fact, right? You see the fences going up prior to the beginning of the trial, which is, by the way, March 8th. Look at how fast they're jumping into action to get barriers in place, fences, and all kinds of personnel that they need in place before the trial starts. So what they're really concerned about, ladies and gentlemen, is deliberation. So the trial is starting in March, but deliberation, they're expecting it to be mid to late April. So they're trying to get this all in place before everybody goes ballistic over the verdict. So they must know already. And we know when they do this extreme stuff, they're planning on letting the police officer go. Or a very minimal, bare minimal sentence, the shortest sentence they could possibly give them. We know what's coming. We've seen this over and over. We saw this with Breonna Taylor. If you remember, they cordoned off streets, blocked off the courts. They put all kinds, chained up businesses. Businesses were closed that day of the verdict. We saw this with Breonna Taylor. So now we're seeing it again with George Floyd. And America has a notorious history of not punishing anybody that do things to us. They want us to be helpless. They want us to be helpless and have no one to run to. They love it this way. But y'all, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. They are fooling no one. Peace, family.